What's up, everybody? Welcome back into an episode of the Lawyer You Know podcast. And today we are going to break down the Kyren Lacy case, a very incredibly tragic case that stemmed from a car accident that took the life of one of the drivers in that car accident. And Kyren Lacy, who was a college football player, a wide receiver for LSU, was seen to be at fault by law enforcement and some witnesses. At least that's how it was initially reported. And right before he ends up getting indicted for that crime, he takes his own life, seemingly from the guilt and heaviness of everything that went on with this investigation. And now so much is coming out about this accident. His lawyer is going out and talking and trying to get justice for Kyren Lacy, explain how it's not what it looks like. It's not what everybody's saying on social media. He's going on multiple news outlets explaining this, showing some receipts and explaining his side of the story. But then you have law enforcement coming out and saying, au contraire, sir, here is the video evidence. Here are the witness statements. Here is exactly what we planned on doing, prosecuting this case and getting justice for the life lost. This is a case that's had some of the biggest sports personalities go out on some of the biggest networks, demanding apologies, demanding justice, just to a few days later backtrack on that. This case has captured national attention. We're going to take our first look at it today. We're going to try to look at everything from every different side and angle and figure out why now? Why is it all coming out now? Is this lawyer trying to set up a civil suit? If he is, what does he actually need to get there? Is there some kind of police corruption going on here? So many different facets to this case. You guys had a lot of questions, a lot of interest. A lot of you guys said you were maybe confused about some of the things going on in this case. So sorry for the long intro, but I want to set this up properly before we dive in to this Kyren Lacy situation that is tragically sad for so many different reasons. Regardless of what the end result ends up being, two lives are never going to come back. And that's something we have to deal with as a reality. But we're going to try to take a look at how the justice system, the investigation, law enforcement, and lawyers handled this case, if there was something that could have been done better, and if there really was corruption or a screw up to a level that there needs to be some civil justice now. What does that look like, and how do we get there? So if you guys are interested in this case, let me know by hitting that like button, commenting if you're watching on YouTube, giving a 5-star review, whatever podcast network you're watching on, and make sure you subscribe to our channel. Let's dive into it. So there are going to be so many sides to this story. So I encourage you to kind of stick around till the end to make up your mind and decision if you feel like you can. Because for those of you that have been following my channel for a while, by the way, my name is Peter Tragos, and I am an attorney in Florida. I practice primarily personal injury, wrongful death, car accidents, truck accidents, which is exactly what this is, right? A deadly car accident, a wrongful death case on the civil side. I also practiced a lot of criminal law early in my career. I prosecuted cases and did a lot of criminal defense. My dad, I always like to say, is the best criminal defense attorney in the country. Our firm does a lot of criminal defense as well. We have 6 lawyers. Pete Sardis did a lot of criminal defense. My other partner, JD, my associate now, who was at the state attorney's office for a few years, does a lot of criminal defense. So our firm handles a lot of personal injury and criminal defense. This case kind of has all of that wrapped together. And when I take a look at this case and I see the tragedy of a lost life and a victim, in this case of the car accident, it's brutally sad, and we do demand justice in those situations. There are parallel avenues to get to justice. There's usually a civil case, negligence of some semblance. Somebody did something wrong, either intentionally or accidentally. Usually it's accidentally on the road. Somebody's speeding, texting, running a red light. Even if somebody's drinking, it can be reckless behavior. Usually they're not intending to take a life. Sometimes that reckless behavior can rise to the level of criminal activity. Sometimes, obviously, intentional behavior or driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol can rise to the level of also having a criminal avenue to an accident. And this case, from the jump, seemed to have both of those parallel avenues of justice, civil and criminal. We're going to focus a lot on the criminal avenue here, starting with the warrant and the affidavit for the arrest warrant for Kyren Lacy. How did he get into this mess? Was he there? Why did they think he was involved? And what evidence did they have against him? Okay, so we're going to start with that. So on December 17th, 2024, 1200 hours, Louisiana State Police Trooper C was notified of an injury crash on LA 20 near Perez Lane in Thibodaux. By the way, Louisiana is bound to have names, words, cities, towns that I'm going to mispronounce. So bear with me. Upon the initial investigation, witness statements driver statements, and video evidence obtained, it was determined 3 vehicles were directly involved. 3 vehicles, okay? It was a 2-car crash. And by the way, if you at all get confused in my initial kind of explanation or overview or even this document, multiple times you are going to have the scene diagrammed to you. You're going to have video evidence. We're going to see the cars. We're going to see the crash. We're going to see all of that. So you're going to be able to get your time and place and focus in on this. It's going to be a little bit of a longer video. So just settle in, because I really want to dig in and get as much of a background and explanation from both sides, from Kyren Lacy's lawyer and from the Louisiana State Police. So the 3 cars are involved. Vehicle 1, and just in case you're not familiar, Vehicle 1 in most crash reports, most police reports, Vehicle 1 is the at-fault vehicle. So most of our car accident cases, Vehicle 1 would be the person that ends up getting sued in the end. So if our client is Vehicle 1, we're like, the cops think you're at fault for the case. Let's do our investigation, see what we can find. If our client's not Vehicle 1, we're like, that's a good start. Okay, because the investigation law enforcement did, they believe the other person's at fault. Let's do our investigation, see if we agree. So Vehicle 1 was a 2023 Dodge Charger. Here's the VIN number, Louisiana license plate number. That Dodge Charger was traveling south on LA 20 at an extremely high rate of speed in a posted 40-mile-an-hour speed zone. So in car accident cases, whether it's criminal or civil, speeding can be a reason for negligence. And that can be the only reason, right? Like you can have somebody who's making a left turn on a yellow light and they get T-boned, and you would think, well, you had a yellow light. They also had a yellow light. They were going straight, or a green flashing light or yellow flashing light, and you're turning left. The other person has a red light. If they are speeding, they could be partially at fault or mostly at fault even, or even fully at fault. Vehicle 1, here's another issue. Vehicle 1 was passing 4 vehicles in a clearly marked double yellow line, no passing zone. 2 small SUVs, 1 large 18-wheeler with a trailer, and 1 full-size pickup. So allegedly here, and we're going to say allegedly a million different ways over, because will we have an answer at the end? I think you probably know where I'm going to stand on that. We have not had a full case on this. We never will have a full criminal case on this as far as Kyren Lacy is concerned, which is one of the big overarching issues of this, which is going to continue to be a conversation publicly and is going to affect the civil case if one comes from Kyren Lacy's family. But spoiler alert, Kyren Lacy is the driver of Vehicle 1, this Dodge Charger. And allegedly, he's passing 4 vehicles, but not just any 4 vehicles. One of them is an 18-wheeler with a trailer. So you can picture that's a long stretch of road that you're trying to pass, going at high rates of speed in a 40-mile-an-hour zone, crossing a double yellow. Doesn't sound good for him. This area of roadway is highly congested with traffic, has several business entrances and exits, and private drives. As Vehicle 1 attempted to pass the 4 vehicles, it rapidly approached a northbound pickup truck operated by Blank. Mr. Blank took evasive action, okay? And a lot of this is going to be referenced in some of the other videos by Kyren Lacy's lawyer. But Mr. Blank took evasive action by emergency braking and driving off the roadway to the right to avoid a head-on collision with Vehicle 1. Mr. Blank came to a controlled stop and was not involved in the crash. Vehicle 2, by the way, if they just say a person's name and they don't have a vehicle number, they're not going to be involved in the crash. Vehicle 1, Vehicle 2, Vehicle 3 are going to be the 3 involved in the crash. We know Vehicle 1 is Kyren Lacy. Vehicle 2, a 2017 Kia Cadenza, operated by driver 2, was traveling north on LA 20 behind Mr. Blank. Upon Mr. Blank exiting the roadway, Mr. Blank also took evasive action to avoid the head-on collision, rapidly approaching Vehicle 1, and she abruptly steered to the left. Upon steering to the left, Vehicle 2 struck Vehicle 3, a 2017 Kia Sorento, driven by driver 3, head-on in the southbound lane of LA 20. Vehicles 2 and Vehicle 3 came to a rest in the roadway, and Vehicle 1 came to a controlled stop. Seconds after the head-on crash occurred, Vehicle 1's driver steered off the roadway around the crash and fled the scene by traveling south on LA 20. Okay, that's another thing that's not good if true. Vehicle 1's driver, I already read that. The head-on crash between Vehicle 2 and 3 caused severe damage. Both vehicles were totaled and road blockage. Driver 2 suffered moderate injuries. Driver 3 suffered severe injuries. The passenger of Vehicle 3, identified as this person, suffered fatal injuries. So literally a passenger, not even driving, no chance to protect himself. He is just in this car. Other drivers taking evasive action. or so it seems, and another vehicle is passing in a lane at a high rate of speed. On scene, a witness statement was collected from the driver of the 18-wheeler. He was identified as Dion. He stated he was traveling south on LA 20 when he observed vehicle 1 traveling south on LA 20, passing several vehicles at over 80 miles an hour, which is double the speed limit. He said to avoid the head-on crash, an approaching northbound truck ran off the roadway. Vehicle 2 then swerved to the left to avoid vehicle 1 and crashed head-on into vehicle 3. Vehicle 1 then immediately went around the crash and sped away while traveling south on LA 20. Driver 2 also provided a statement. Driver 2 said she was traveling north on LA 20 behind a pickup truck. She said the truck suddenly entered the emergency braking and veered off the roadway to the right. She then observed vehicle 1 rapidly approaching in her lane of travel, so she abruptly steered to the left to avoid the head-on collision with vehicle 1. When she steered to the left, she struck vehicle 3 head-on in the southbound lane of LA 20. She said she did not see vehicle 3 prior to impact. So that right there to me, driver 2 in vehicle 2 veered off the road to try to avoid a collision, but then hit another car that they didn't see. So if I'm looking at this as a lawyer, if I'm looking at this as an investigator, to me, there also looks to be some portion of fault. I'm not going to say criminal liability, but fault to vehicle 2, because you have a duty to take evasive action and try to avoid collisions, but you can't create other hazards and create other collisions. It may be a small apportionment of fault, but if there's a civil case going on, there's a good likelihood that a jury would put some portion of fault, even if it's a small portion, on vehicle 2. And that adds another wrinkle into this, because in car accidents, oftentimes there are multiple parties that can be at fault. How does that affect everything else we're going to talk about? We'll discuss it. Video evidence of the crash was located at the Go Bears convenience store. Captured vehicle 1 passing the 4 vehicles at a very high rate of speed and rapidly approaching the crash scene. As vehicle 1 is passing in the northbound lane, the crash occurs between vehicle 2 and 3. Timing is important here. Vehicle 1 comes to a sudden stop for a moment, then travels around the crash and flees the scene on LA 20. Though video footage obtained from multiple sources, including dash cam footage from inside the 2 cane haulers with these trucking companies, exterior footage from 15 different businesses, and flock camera, I was able to identify vehicle 1 and its path after the crash occurred. During each video observed, vehicle 1 continuously traveled south on LA 20. Vehicle 1 then traveled west on LA 3185, where it was captured by a flock camera at 12:12 hours. Upon investigation, it was learned vehicle 1 ended its travel at the Louisiana Baseball Association. Upon obtaining the exterior video footage from that location, the footage clearly captured the registered owner of the vehicle, identified as this person, exit the driver's seat and enter the business. Due to the time frame of travel between each video footage capturing vehicle 1's path after the crash, vehicle 1 did not stop between the crash scene and the Louisiana Baseball Association. I concluded the driver of vehicle 1 was, and that's Kyren Lacy. Due to the criminal negligence, reckless operation of vehicle 1 by driver 1 during the crash, including passing 4 vehicles in a clearly marked double yellow no passing zone and traveling an extremely high rate of speed, according to witness and video footage collected from the Go Bears convenience store, driver 1 directly caused a head-on crash between vehicles 2 and 3. The crash resulted in fatal injuries to the passenger of vehicle 3. Due to the manner of the collision between vehicles 2 and 3, the severe damage to both vehicles, the total road blockage of LA 20, driver 1, Kyren Lacy, should have known that death or serious bodily injury occurred during the crash and failed to stop by fleeing the scene. So that is what law enforcement believes rose to the level of making this a crime. If you guys are anything like me, when the weather changes, so does your wardrobe. And I'm still in Florida here, so it hasn't quite gotten to my quince suede bomber jacket weather yet. I'm still in the linen pants phase of the year, but eventually that weather will turn and so will my wardrobe, which is where our sponsor for today's video, Quince, comes in. While I already have a few pieces I'm definitely going to rotate in, I've got my eye on a couple new items that I'm going to buy eventually before the weather changes. The number one item being the organic stretch corduroy 5-pocket pants. They have so many different colors, so that's what I'm trying to kind of figure out which one I want at this point, but it's going to be perfect for fall and winter here in Florida. The quality of the products at Quince are unbeatable, and they cut out the middleman, so the prices are incredibly reasonable. So layer up this fall with pieces that feel as good as they look. Go to quince.com/LYK for free shipping on your orders and 365-day returns. now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/LYK for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/LYK. And he is going to be charged with negligent homicide, which is a felony, reckless operation, which is a misdemeanor, hit and run while driving, which is a felony. Very, very serious charges carrying serious sentences with them. And I believe it was right before he was either a grand jury or right before he was going to get indicted. I don't know the exact timeline. I can't remember it specifically and what it's called in Louisiana, but he takes his own life. Incredibly sad, incredibly tragic, a young life lost. Now, we're going to hear from his attorney who went on this show. We're going to watch a show from HTV Huma. And it's obvious that this is the second time the attorney is coming back on this show. And the person who runs the show says, I always welcome somebody to come on this show if they have information about this case. And Mr. Ori is the attorney, criminal defense attorney, but he's also a personal injury attorney. So he also files civil claims like this. He knows how car accidents work and maybe potentially some kind of 1983 action with Kyren Lacy if that comes. But he's going to come on and tell us kind of his side of the story. And it's happening now months later because he's finally gotten his hands on a lot of evidence. And he's going to discuss what he believes the truth to be, the real side of the story, not what we just read, because that's not true. And overcharging, making this so horrible, threatening Kyren Lacy was horrible. They should have never done it. They were completely wrong. And they caused him basically. And if we remember from the Take Care of Maya case, one of their claims was Maya's mom took her life because of their actions. She felt there was no way out. Are they trying to set up some claim like that? So let's take a listen here to how his lawyer explains it. And we'll go through some of these arguments, how they can affect the potential civil case, if there is one, and why we're talking about this now and what was done wrong and what could have happened in the criminal case. And by the way, after this interview is where a lot of the outrage came from people like Ryan Clark and Scott Van Pelt on the show, and they made a statement. And then so first we're going to play this video, then maybe we'll play the statement from Ryan Clark on SVP, and then we'll play the state's response, and then we'll play their apologies, and then we'll play his response to the state's response. So we got a lot coming here.
And good to see you, Matt. Thank you for coming.
Good to see you, Martin. Thank you for having me.
Did you compile anything new?
I've got everything. I've got every piece of evidence I have viewed. I've examined every piece of evidence, which includes all surveillance, all body cam footage, and most importantly, the investigative report that was generated and manufactured by the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office, according to the data that they obtained.
In that report, which is independent of you, when I was going through it and looking at some of these things in it, I think you'll probably go over where they were, because I see you brought a board where you're going to depict where all of them were during the incident, and you have all that information to sort of explain where everyone was at, how fast they were going, what they were doing, all of that.
I do. I've got it all here.
Okay. So most of this reports, or do you have actual video?
Got the entirety of the district attorney's findings, their findings after their own investigation. That's what we're here today to present. We're going to compare and contrast those findings with the findings of state police, because there's a ton of confusion. People seem to believe that somehow he hit someone in this accident, or possibly even shot through two cars and there was this explosion behind him. I've heard every version possible, but we can show you the version right now.
Okay. Sort of describe the video for.
So that starting out point, people seem to think he hit a vehicle or sped right through the two vehicles. So those kinds of misconceptions in the media suck. They're horrible. They maybe led to some bullying or social media, people harassing Kyren Lacy about this, and that's all horrible. That can't be attributed to law enforcement. They never said that unless, he has something that I don't. We're going to listen to all of this. But in that arrest affidavit, they never said he hit anybody. They never said that, he sped right through and, the cars just barely missed him and collided. But they did say he was directly responsible, and they explained why: speeding, crossing a double yellow in a passing lane, and then leaving the scene. Okay? So that misconception, and the public misconception, now it may matter for justice for Kyren Lacy and for his family and for, their well-being, but it's not going to matter for a 1983 action. It's not going to matter for police corruption if the public is just wrong about things, or they read something wrong, or somebody said something wrong if it didn't directly come from law enforcement. So correcting the record is important, but there is a difference, obviously, in police and prosecutors doing things wrong and the public just jumping to conclusions.
audience what you've seen in the video.
Yeah, so what you'll see is in the top left of the screen, you're going to see multiple cars just making their way.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be bumping up and down the speed. When there's a video, I'll bump down the speed to normal. And then when they're just talking, I will bump the speed up just so you can get an idea of the actual speed of the video.
South to Thibodeau, coming from Vacherie. At some point in time, you're going to see the collision, which we're going to know is vehicle number 2 from oncoming traffic colliding with the vehicle of Mr. Hall. You will see another vehicle come to a stop, and then you'll see Kyren Lacy come to a stop.
So as you can see, Kyren Lacy's obviously the green Charger.
We've seen the video. It looks like the impact happens, and then Kyren Lacy is behind him. How far away was he from there?
Well, yeah, that's the beauty of the investigative report that I now have my hands on. We know from data that Kyren Lacy did in fact pass 4 cars. There's no disputing that. Further north, Kyren Lacy passed 4 cars. However, he was back in his lane of travel, 92.3 yards. Back in his lane, behind Mr. Hall. At the time of impact, he's 72.6 yards behind the vehicles at the time of impact. Keyword, behind the vehicles. That is not how the story was ever painted. Never.
Any part of the
Okay, so now we're talking about how was the story painted and who painted the story. Because he was 70 yards or whatever it is, 100 yards behind the vehicles, behind impact. Now that we've seen the video one time in real speed, I'm just going to leave it on the sped up speed because as you can see, 45-minute video here. We got another 25-minute, another 12-minute video. We got a lot of video to get through. But we're going to see as we go through these, he is painting a picture saying they painted an incorrect picture. That was never how the story was told. Well, what did they say that was incorrect? What did they say that was wrong? How did they paint him out to be a villain in a way that was not true, right? Those are the questions we have to ask. Because you can be not involved. You can not hit a car and still be responsible for an accident. I think we can all agree with that, right? You can not barely squeeze through 2 cars as they hit and still be responsible for the accident. Can you be 100 yards away or 75 yards away or 50 yards away and still cause an accident? I think that's a question that's up for debate. So is this entire thing going to be something that's questionable and could have been a good legal defense in court? Or is this going to be something that's obvious corruption and overcharging and they wanted to make an example out of Kyren Lacy? Those are the kinds of questions going through my head. Because as I look at every case, I try to see it from both sides. I try to see, how would I prosecute this case? How would I defend this case? And in my head, if I'm thinking, how would I prosecute this case based on that arrest affidavit is, his speeding made a bunch of drivers freak out because the people involved in the crash were not the only one, right? We had the other truck that, according to them, allegedly swerved out of the way. He's crossing a double yellow speeding, breaking traffic laws, has a duty, breached that duty, right? Has a duty to drive safely, breached that duty, according to the affidavit. And these other cars are freaking out when they see a car flying down the wrong lane, which, by the way, does happen. And then he doesn't stop. He just leaves. That's how I prosecute this case. He broke the traffic laws. He knew he broke them. He was completely reckless. That recklessness caused evasive action, which caused accidents. And then he leaves. So is he coming up with a defense now that he was too far away? They should never have had to react to him. Is he going to say they didn't see him? Nobody ever said they even saw this green Charger? Because if they never saw him, then yeah, we got a problem. People are making up stories. So those are the kinds of things going through my head as we're listening.
The district attorney's investigation that talked about Mr. Lacy getting back, I guess we call it, what do you call it, correcting or getting in your proper lane?
Sure, he was back in his proper lane according to their data. This isn't my expert. This is the investigation of the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office. So I'm here simply comparing and contrasting the District Attorney's Office with state police in this matter, their investigation.
Which to me, if I'm reading between the lines and he says that's not my expert, maybe his expert doesn't even agree that Kyren Lacy got back in the lane of traffic. From the video, it doesn't really look like it, but he's showing inconsistencies, which guess what is an inconsistency? It's a really good defense when you're putting on a defense at trial. The cops say this, the prosecutors say this, it's inconsistent. How are they going to prove this to you beyond a reasonable doubt?
And in that investigation, it shows that he was back in his correct lane of travel, 92.3 yards. Before this incident occurred, he was back in his lane.
What does the legal law state about where you should be behind? Or I want to say, I thought it was 100 feet. Is that correct?
It is correct. You know, take out the fact here that it's a no passing zone. If it weren't at this time, it's 100 feet. What we know now is he was 3 times legally what he needed to be back in his lane of traffic.
Where was everybody involved in this? And I see you brought something that you could visibly show everybody.
Yeah, I mean, like I stated, if we're looking at this, and of course this isn't to scale, and I can't draw, but what you see here is vehicle 3. That is Mr. Hall's vehicle. This is another vehicle between Mr. Lacy and Mr. Hall.
Okay.
This is the gold truck that's referenced in the report. This is heading north. So this is the lead vehicle heading north. And the vehicle that actually collided.
And like I told you, this is where we're going to see some diagrams and people are going to tell us who's who and where's everybody at. And again, we're going to see him do it. We're going to see law enforcement do it in their own diagram.
With Mr. Hall's vehicle, that would be vehicle 2. All right. So through the course of this now, we start investigating and dissecting everything we possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
When we do that, we start with vehicle 2, right? So what do I know now about vehicle 2? Vehicle 2 was tailgating, all right? According to the data, again, of the district attorney's office, not me, according to their data, tailgating at 49.6 miles an hour, 0.5 seconds behind the gold truck, 1.5 seconds before the crash.
Okay, so what verbiage is he using? Vehicle 2 is tailgating. When I say tailgating, what does that mean to you? What does that strike in your mind? It will help me. Tell me in the chat, right? Because I have cases where one vehicle may be tailgating, and to me, that's a word that usually strikes negative feelings. You shouldn't tailgate people. It's a 40-mile-an-hour zone. We already know that from the affidavit. And she's going 40, or the driver of vehicle 2 is going 49.6 miles an hour. So speeding and tailgating. So what's he doing? Violating the rules of the road. And that's what this lawyer's pointing out. But just because somebody else, like I said, might be at fault for this accident and this death, does that completely absolve Kyren Lacy?
So again, if that didn't make sense, she is following 0.5 seconds behind this vehicle, 0.5 seconds behind that vehicle, 1.5 seconds before the crash at over 49 miles an hour. 0.5. That's what happens when you tailgate. Now, interestingly enough, this vehicle was actually, when this woman was in the ambulance, they issued her a ticket. All right. You know for what? Take a wild guess. Following too close. They even told her
They issued her a ticket for following too close. And by the way, the gold truck that she was tailgating is the one that was able to swerve out of the way. Then she swerves and hits the vehicle. So if I'm Matt Ory, who's this lawyer, maybe I'm thinking the gold truck actually caused her to do this accident because the gold truck swerved out of the way. Then vehicle 2 swerved and caused the accident. So it's actually vehicle 3 and vehicle or the gold truck and vehicle 2's fault. What does the gold truck say? Does the gold truck say he swerved out of the way because of the green Charger, or why?
Personal belongings. Fast forward. Another trooper comes and is looking for that particular ticket. And that ticket, they told her, something may happen to the ticket, don't worry about it. Sure enough, something happened to that ticket down the road, right? The ticket now needs to fit a better narrative. And that ticket now says, crossing left of center. Why? Why? The black box is telling me. The data from the district attorney's office tells me you're traveling 0.5 seconds at 49.6 miles an hour, 1.5 seconds before the accident. It's not.
So could have been speeding, could have been tailgating, following too closely, and it could have been crossing over to the lane of traffic, which they also did. And like I said, even if you're avoiding a crash and you cause another one, you can still be ticketed or at fault for that or liable for that. Now, he's a lawyer. He knows things like that change all the time. What a ticket is, what a criminal charge is. I mean, I think one of his points here is going to be that Kyren Lacy was overcharged, meaning he could have gone and affected those charges as a lawyer. So he knows that those charges and those tickets can be changed. But why did they do it? Did they do it because the driver of vehicle 2 got a good lawyer, made an argument, and they ended up changing it to that? Or did they change it to create a narrative to make Kyren Lacy the bad guy, the villain? Were they doing this to attack and target Kyren Lacy? Whether it's pickleball, golf, pool, hanging out with my kids, throwing the football with Maverick outside, I feel like I'm always outside, and it is still so hot in Florida, which is not great for your skin, obviously. But today's sponsor, OneSkin, helps so much with that. It is still my favorite and probably the only face cream I think I've ever used. They also have lotions for your body and everything else. But from my perspective, it makes my skin feel different than any other lotion or cream I've ever used because it's not just moisturizing. It also makes it feel tighter and younger. OneSkin's products have over 10,000 5-star reviews. It's a very common review that many people feel like their skin is now smoother, firmer, and healthier looking after using OneSkin. And that's because OneSkin is the first skincare skincare company built on longevity science. Their patented OS01 peptide targets the cells that cause the visible signs of aging, helping your skin and scalp stay healthier and more resilient now and as you age. For a limited time, try OneSkin with 15% off using code LYK at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code LYK. After your purchase, they're going to ask you how you found out about them. So please support our podcast and let them know we sent you.
Tailgating. Now, what we're looking at, this isn't speculation. Through this, we hear there's story after story. Actually, vehicle 2 story got bigger and bigger and bigger until we now have their data, right? So when we get our hands on it, I'm looking at the data from that particular vehicle. That data in that vehicle shows me 5 seconds previous to this crash. 5. I'm looking at it. You're going to show it. 5 seconds previous to this crash, she maintained a speed of 49.6 miles an hour, never activating the EBS system until 0.5 seconds before the crash. Why is that important? Because if your story, which we'll get into, keeps getting bigger and bigger, and you had all this time to see the gold truck, in her words, stomp on their brakes, slam on their brakes, come to a stop, veer off the road. I see another vehicle approaching. I see the Charger approaching. Well, my question to you now becomes, how did you see that vehicle approaching, or him stop, or him slam on his brakes, yet your data says you never touched your brake prior to 0.5 seconds before that crash? I'm looking right now, so are you, at the last 5 seconds, according to her. Her car's black box, not mine, not my expert. That's her car. So if you're going to tell me a 5 to 10 second elaborate story, it needs to make sense. And when you have the data, not only doesn't it add up, it's not possible. Notice on there, Martin, it says 75 degrees, right? You turn 75 degrees to the left all of a sudden. That's what happens when you tailgate. Now, interestingly enough, this vehicle was actually, when this woman was in the ambulance, they issued her a ticket, all right? You know for what? Take a wild guess. Following too close. Data from the district attorney's office tells me you're traveling 0.5 seconds at.
I'm looking at the data and I'm learning some new things here. So the 75, the steering input at 75 to the left.
That's correct.
Any indicate that, I would guess 75 on a scale of 100. That's a pretty hard turn to the left.
It's a very hard turn to the left. The gold truck, the lead vehicle in oncoming traffic, who, by the way, is probably one of the 2 most important witnesses in this entire case. We know now that 2.99 seconds prior to him pulling off the road, he was traveling 28 miles an hour. 28 miles an hour. Now, you're going to hear his statement in a little while, and it's going to all make sense. But let's be very clear right now for the intent and purposes of what we're doing. There are 2 vehicles that we're talking about right now that are traveling north. The second vehicle in oncoming traffic, which is vehicle 2, their data says she is tailgating. She is 0.5 seconds at 49.6 miles an hour. 1.5 seconds before the crash. And you saw her data, 50.3 to 49.6.
Yeah, so she stayed at 49.6 until 0.5 seconds, and then
there's a variation of less than a mile per hour.
Now, I'll also say, he seems like a good lawyer, smart guy, using this data, picking it apart. We're not in court. There's no objections. There's no experts that we're really hearing from. And I'll tell you, from a lot of witnesses that explain car accidents, everything happens so fast. You do hear some other story, and can it affect yours? Yes. There's a difference between being like, yeah, I saw him slam on his brakes, and then afterwards realizing he slammed on his brakes, right? So what actually happened? How much are their stories evolving? There's a difference between that and corruption and telling witnesses to lie and changing the data and making evidence disappear or appear, right? And that kind of corruption. So there's definitely a difference, and witnesses' stories do evolve. That can be good, that can be bad. Again, defense attorneys can use that as fodder as cross-examination at trial. But is it going to be enough to really prove that this was a big either setup or corruption or cover up, or really trying to paint Kyren Lacy as the bad guy when he really did nothing wrong?
Yeah, it's 0.7, I believe.
right. Did she give any police report or anything?
Oh, absolutely. So
Let's talk about that a little bit.
we will. This particular individual, and for purposes of this report, I'd like you, Martin, this is page 9. If you can follow along to make sure I'm not misquoting a single thing.
All right.
All right. I'm on. This is their investigator, Lamb, video of the trooper from the scene. The following statement was made by, we'll call her vehicle 2, right?
Mhm.
I just know the truck was stomping on brakes. The other was trying to pass the other car. I was trying to dodge by not hitting him, by coming around. When the trooper asked how fast she was going, she replied the speed limit. He next says, I reviewed the recorded interview and the written statement from vehicle 2 while she was in the hospital on January 3rd, 2025. Below is a synopsis of that interview. And the very first, it says, all I can see is that a car is coming this way and the car in front of me, right before the crash. I'm looking at the pickup truck in front of me. That's all they see for the moment. I'm eating my Funyuns. I got in the middle of my lap and I'm driving. I'm listening to my music. All of a sudden, I see the car get in the other person's lane. The truck, end quote, steps on his brakes. First, so it slows down, but then he does it again, and this time it's really hard. That's when you can see on the other side, the car is trying to get back over. But before he can get over, the truck stops in the middle, like on the brakes, hard. There's another car that runs damn near into the pole. It's either I run into him or I try to get out the way. So I'm trying to get to the dollar store parking lot. Then the other car just comes and slams into me. The trooper asked vehicle 2, whenever you're looking forward or the car's in front of you, they swerve off to the right before you make your left, or are you looking at a green Charger coming at you? Or, in end of quotes. Vehicle 2 responded with, the green Charger came, and then the car behind them, the truck, the van, whatever. The trooper does not ask any further follow-up questions to get a better understanding of what she was saying for this answer. Now remember, I'm reading what the investigator's saying. Mm-hmm. When vehicle 2 states the truck stops in the middle of the road like on the brakes hard, the statement indicates that the gold truck stopped in the middle of the lane and not, in quotes, swerving off to the right. This would also show that vehicle 2 would have steered to the left to avoid contact with the gold truck and not Kyren Lacy. During this interview with the trooper, vehicle 2 made several statements that do not match the submitted report or written statement. Instead of questioning vehicle 2 for more details, the trooper attempted to recap what she was saying, which seems to contradict her statements. While doing this, the trooper is the first to talk about the gold truck.
And anytime this happens where there's a difference between how the prosecutors investigate and the cops investigate, that's okay. It should be. We should all be fighting for truth. This is an issue that defense attorneys will absolutely pick apart and show where the issues are. But what is the final result of the investigations? That's really important as well. And that's why sometimes more witness statements have to happen and more discovery has to happen.
Swerving off to the right. Then when it came to obtaining the written statement, the trooper tells vehicle 2 what to document on the statement as she is writing.
I have 2 questions here. One, I'd like to know more about the statement that you made to the trooper. The other one would be, do we have any data on the gold truck?
2.99 seconds before the gold truck eases off to the road. Okay. Eases off of the road.
Right.
He's traveling at 28 miles an hour.
Right.
That all is in this report.
Yeah, that's my question.
You watch someone slam on their brakes. You watch them stop. You watch their car chart coming at you in your lane of traffic, but you never thought to just tap the brakes? Really? No. Data is accurate. The black box is accurate that says that you never
So what does that mean? If she never tapped the brakes, okay, so she's lying. She's actually saying she's driving slower and safer than she is. 99% of cars do that when they get in an accident. Oh, I was going the speed limit. Everybody says they were going the speed limit. But so let's say she's lying and she didn't see any of it. Gold truck swerves out of the way. So she swerves out of the way. And now she's trying to say, oh, yeah, I saw all this stuff. I tapped on my brakes. So that diminishes her testimony. So what other testimony, what other evidence do they have against Kyren Lacy? Because this doesn't prove Kyren Lacy was not part of this. But what he is creating some doubt is, did vehicle 2 actually see Kyren Lacy? And did vehicle 2 actually, or did Kyren Lacy actually force vehicle 2 off the road, therefore creating a collision? And that's what he's trying to do. To me, it sounds like he's making a very good argument, a very good defense. But as you know, this is not going to be something that's going to be proven in a criminal case in the court of law. So you can go on and you can say, just like I can sit here and kind of say whatever I want and tell you how I think the evidence looks, and you guys can tell me your opinion on how the evidence looks. It's never going to be scrutinized by the rules of evidence, cross-examination, experts, and then eventually have a decision made by a judge or a jury. So that's the problem here. And you have to be able to prove things, not just poke holes, in order to get to some kind of civil action against law enforcement. And a witness lying, like if you're law enforcement, a witness lies and you believe them, that's not a crime, right? You're not violating somebody's civil rights necessarily because you believe a witness and a defense attorney does not believe a witness. Imagine if that's all it took in every case that we've covered, right?
Touch your brakes. You never touch your brakes in the last 5 seconds until 0.5 seconds before the impact. That's their data. It's not mine.
Proceed. What did you find out after that?
So what I was curious about here, most importantly to me, in terms of the oncoming traffic, right? So I'm looking at that gold truck. I want to know what they said, when they said it, what were the circumstances, how did this come about? And this is where it really starts tying together.
To me, the gold truck is potentially the most important witness, because if they initially swerved out of the road because they saw Kyren Lacy and the green Charger coming towards them, and then that was the domino that started everything else, I think I understand why law enforcement and the prosecutor's office potentially believed Kyren Lacy was criminally negligent or reckless in his driving and was a direct or indirect cause of this accident. Because if he was the first domino, driving at a high rate of speed in the wrong lane, across a double yellow, the gold truck had to move, which then caused vehicle 2 to freak out and maybe swerve as well, causing the accident, then I can understand how we get there. So the gold truck is potentially the most important witness in my view of all this.
Together, right? The gold truck, they end up getting a statement from this individual. There's 2 of them. The very first one, what I noticed on the body cam was that the conversation was going on for 4 minutes and approximately 30 seconds prior to the body cam being activated. And of course, when the body cam's activated, I don't know what you said those previous 4.5 minutes. They end up at this individual's house to obtain a
Also a very common argument, right? Why the body cam takes so long to turn on. That's horrible. Cops shouldn't do it. They shouldn't break their own rules. It creates so much doubt. Don't do it because it leaves questions in the minds of people that want justice, that will fight for justice. Don't do it. It's horrible. And that's something that apparently happened in this case. So he says, right? I'm taking everything with a grain of salt because, again, we're not in court for this case and we can't be in court for this case.
statement. I want to play right now how that statement started.
Okay, let's roll that in.
All right, sir. So, look, don't worry about filling any of this top information, like your name, address. Don't worry about any of that. Just right here, if you could, I'll just have you write exactly what you saw. Just make sure to include, where you were.
I don't even know what the name of that highway.
So Highway 20. Highway 20. That you just.
All right, me and my wife gonna figure out right quick.
Okay, just make sure you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes and the brakes, you had to slam on the brakes to avoid that charger and the brakes locked up to avoid that charger. That's.
I ain't skid mark or nothing. I wasn't even going for it. That lady in the back of me, she ain't.
Sounds like he said, I didn't skid mark or nothing. And the cop clearly tells him what to write. So there's two ways to look at this. Is the cop telling him to write something that's not true? Or is the cop repeating what he told him before? Either way, doesn't look good on the body cam.
So what's happening, that's how she called that record. She was running in the back of me. She pulled on.
And then he says the lady in back of me, which is driver 2, she caused that wreck. She caused that wreck. So if the most important witness, driver of the gold truck, thinks the lady behind him caused wreck, now he's not the end all be all. He's just one witness, but that's very, very important information. We've got a fun new sponsor here. It is DraftKings Casino, the home of Cash Eruption. You can spin the largest collection of Cash Eruption slots, including new and exclusive Big Bank Breakout. And while this game is not available in Florida, it's only available in Connecticut, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. Next time I'm on vacation in one of those states, you better believe I'm trying this out. New players get 500 spins over 10 days on your choice of Cash Eruption slots when you wager $5. Play classic Cash Eruption today, then Red Hot Joker or Coins and Clovers tomorrow. It's all up to you. Get the app, sign up with the code LAWYER, then start spinning on the home of Cash Eruption. In partnership with DraftKings Casino, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Connecticut, help is available. For problem gambling, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. 21 plus, and you must be physically present in Connecticut, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or West Virginia only. Void in Ontario. Eligibility restrictions apply. Non-withdrawable casino spins issued as 50 spins per day for 10 days. Valid for featured game only and expire each day after 24 hours. See terms at casino.draftkings.com/promos. Ends January 4th, 2026 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time.
She didn't know what's happening. That's how she called that record. She was running in the back of me. She pulled on.
And she didn't see what happened. He also says that the driver behind him, driver of vehicle 2, didn't see what happened.
That is right.
Mm-hmm. So, but the charger was coming right at you, right, correct? Right. And that's why you had to slam on your brake, the head on with you. So yeah, just make sure you include that in.
But that's what's not good for Mr. Lacy. So I'm going to back it up a little. He said, but the charger was coming head on with you, and listen to what the witness said.
Running in the back of me, she pulled on the other side.
Mm-hmm. So, but the charger was coming right at you, right, correct? Right. And that's why you had to slam on your brake, the head on with you. So yeah.
He said, yeah, head on with me. The charger was coming head on with me. So again, the witness can think I've had so many witnesses think so many different people are at fault for accidents and they're wrong half the time. So he can think whoever he wants is wrong for the accident. But when you tell it to the cops and the cops tell it to the prosecutor, they're the ones that make the charging decision. Sometimes they suck at it. They have so much power. They need to realize how much responsibility there goes along with that power. But at the end of the day, this witness, to me, sounds like he's saying both of them are at fault. The charger for coming at him, causing him to swerve, but the lady was following too closely, not paying attention, and she hit that car, so she's at fault too. That's what it sounds like to me as I'm listening to this. You guys feel free to let me know if you disagree.
Just make sure you include that, and that's very important because we're trying to locate this charger right now. So just include that in the statement, and I'll read it over, and then I'll be out of here.
In that video, you can clearly hear the suggestive nature indicating that I need you to say that you had to slam on your brakes and you had to avoid a charger.
Okay, just make sure you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes, and the brakes, you had to slam on the brakes to avoid that charger, and the brakes locked up to avoid that charger.
But then you hear Gold Truck, the witness, who's the Gold Truck, what he says. And he says verbatim.
I ain't skid mark or nothing. I wasn't even going for it. That lady in the back of me, she didn't saw what happened. That's how she called that record. She was running in the back of me. She pulled on the other side. And
I didn't skid marked or nothing because I wasn't even going that fast. That lady in the back of me, she didn't see what's happening. That's how she caused that wreck. She was going to run into the back of me, and she pulled into the other side. But there's a bigger problem. I then obtained
So he didn't mention the part where the green charger was coming head on with him.
the actual written statement.
And this is from the Gold Truck.
This is the Gold Truck. Now, after the statement we just went through, notice I've obviously redacted names, addresses, and the cell phone number in fairness to the individual who is Gold Truck number one in oncoming traffic. See, the problem with that statement is it is in direct contravention to what was said minutes earlier. It's not written by him. And where it says signed, it's not signed. It's refused. But you see, when I have a witness who is the most critical, and he's telling you, I wasn't traveling fast. We know now that he wasn't. The data shows 2.99 seconds before that he was traveling 28 miles an hour. The data shows that. Now he corroborates that. And he goes on to say, I didn't even make a skid mark. That woman behind me, she caused that accident. And you give me this statement that is refused? I got a problem. I got a problem with that. A big one. What he's saying is she had to avoid hitting him. He specifically stated she caused that accident. But I've got an affidavit for arrest warrant right here. Nowhere in here does it say anything that you guys just saw on body cam. To the contrary, about that vehicle, it says the Gold.
And again, and we're going to have him read the statement. He's 100% right. I think there, like I said in the beginning from the jump, I think vehicle 2 absolutely has some fault in this as well. But just because vehicle 2 has fault does not completely absolve Kyren Lacy. And that's something that is difficult to hear, regardless of what happened, right? I wish so bad Kyren Lacy had somebody in his life that could have convinced him to fight this, to fight for justice, let the truth come out, prove what happened so we can have this court case go. He's got a very good lawyer, it seems like, who really wants to fight hard for him, who believes in this case, who believes in him. It's just such a brutally sad thing to think that these young kids, athletes with the world ahead of them, probably are looking at, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, these LSU wide receivers, Brian Thomas Jr. making millions and millions of dollars, superstar wide receivers. And he's looking at, that could be me next. And then this happens and my life's over and it all seems come crashing down. I wish people had people in their lives to pour into them, to give them hope, to explain to them, a bigger purpose than just this life or just money or whatever it is. I really wish he had somebody that could have gotten to him in that moment. I'm sure he's got a lot of good people in his life. I don't mean that. Sometimes it's just, you can't break through no matter how much you do. And it's so tragic and hard to even think about what happened. I wish we were talking about this case with Kyren Lacy fighting it in a court of law and not with the truly tragic ending that we see. But we still have to look at this case as a legal fact pattern and what's the end result. And so far, I think he's making a good argument. As as a lawyer, I think I could make the argument that vehicle 2 is partially at fault for this as well.
Truck took evasive action by emergency braking and driving off the roadway to avoid a head-on crash. But you just heard he said, I wasn't even going fast. I didn't even skid mark. So what emergency braking are we referring to here? And what the hell was the point of this report? That is complete opposite. I would expect that you'll show this to where they can read what was said versus what was written just minutes earlier.
Just make sure you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes, and the brakes, you had to slam on the brakes to avoid that charger, and the brakes locked up to avoid that charger.
I ain't skid mark or nothing. I wasn't even going for it. That lady in the back of me, she didn't saw what happened. That's how she called that record. She was running in the back of me. She pulled on the other side.
So, but the charger was coming right at you.
And they show it to explain how, the statement is different from what's on the written paper, and the written paper matches up more with law enforcement say. I will also tell you a horrible, horrible thing cops do sometimes in investigations, whether it's crash report or whatever, is tell witnesses what to say. pisses every lawyer off. They shouldn't do it. We wish they wouldn't do it. We wouldn't have issued this if we wouldn't do it. But I mean, lawyers tell witnesses the same thing sometimes too. It's like, I'll just say it like this. And it's like, once you start doing that, you start affecting the truth and you start affecting justice, and it's a domino effect. And we really can't do that. I hate that. I think it's wrong. I think this cop should have never done it. I think this cop needs more training. And again, this cop was probably thinking he was doing the right thing, trying to get the bad guy, trying to find the charger, trying to get who was responsible for taking a person's life and injuring multiple other people. So they could purpose, but you still have to do the right thing. You can't compromise morals and values and right and wrong just because you think you're trying to do the greater good by getting the bad guy. That's why justice is important. That's why rules are important. That's why having witnesses and following the proper procedures are important. That's the only way the rule of law works.
This is what we get back in a foul. This, right? He comes here, he passes. He gets back in his lane. Don't you know that one of these witnesses that's in this package actually says in his statement that the Charger passed through the vehicle of Mr. Hall and the gold truck and vehicle 2, and then they collided. I can't make this up. This is what
again, this is an example of witnesses being wrong. And if a witness tells a cop that, and that's what a cop puts in a report, it's not the cop's fault. That's what I was saying in the beginning. There's a difference between cops making things up and cops putting things out in the media versus a witness saying something and getting in a report, and then the witness being wrong. So there's nuance to this.
People just don't get to see. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not saying this intentional. I'm saying people commit to a story and they don't back down. You saw it here, but I'm telling you, you guys saw it.
That's so true. And once you hear somebody else tell a story, you start checking your story. So he's right there.
You just saw a statement where somebody tells them what to say. They tell them that's not what happened. They still give the statement. And now I got another individual who we won't harp into here because it's so uncredible, right? That one individual, one of the 4 individuals here, they say that they were going 30 to 35 miles an hour when Kyren passed him. He did. There's no disputing that. No one ever did, but he was back in his lane of travel. 92.3 yards back in, 72.6 at the time of impact. When they collide, he is 72.6. Before they collide, he is almost a football field away back in his lane. That's not disputed. What you can see is another car come to a stop, and then Kyren Lacy come to a stop. But you know what's really interesting to me as well is that there was another passenger.
So in his lane of travel, how long was he in his lane of travel? What did the videos show? When did he leave his lane of travel? When was he going back and forth? Right? Because going around this way, getting back in your lane of travel, so we had a horribly tragic DUI accident where a drunk driver was driving on the wrong side of the road for like 15 miles on a huge highway with cops chasing them, everything. They end up head-on collision, killing one of my clients, seriously injuring another. So many cars took evasive action, whether or not that car was actually in their lane, because they saw that car was in their lane at some point. So there's another avenue of this where the Charger's in this lane. Maybe he gets back. Maybe he's back into the wrong lane, then back. And you're taking evasive action because you're like, I don't want to deal with this. This looks dangerous. I think he's going to hit me. That can be part of it too. Again, all of this is really good defenses. And I think he could have had a successful defense potentially in criminal court. But does it prove there's just no way he should ever be charged with anything? Is that even what this lawyer is going to say and argue at the end of the day? Because you'd need that for a civil suit, I would think.
In Kyren Lacy's car. They knew this. They have video footage of this individual getting out of the car. Why didn't you ascertain his identity? Why would you not want to hear the person with one of the best views of this incident? Why would you make a call? Why would you simply not bring him in for questioning?
And I'm sure you talked to him after?
Of course, I talked to him after. That's exactly what they said. Yeah. It's exactly what they said. Mm-hmm. They actually thought at one point in time that she collided with a gold truck. That's the very first thing they told me, that they thought that this vehicle 2, was trying to get around the two. As in, slide between them, as in, uh-oh.
And again, different witnesses definitely see and think different things when an accident happens. You have 5 people witness an accident, they'll tell you 5 different versions of it. That happens all the time in our cases.
So you can see why. This is just amazing now, what I know, and there's so much more. We've spent hours and hours and hours scouring. But I don't know how else to tell anybody else that this is not mine. I didn't generate this. I didn't manipulate this. I didn't alter it. I didn't manufacture it. I received it from the district attorney's office. I then did my job and I compare it to the report and the investigation of state police. And it is drastic. It's drastic. The very last line of the report from the district attorney's office says, the evidence submitted in the crash report does not support that Kyren Lacy should have known that his actions were the cause of the crash that happened approximately 72 yards in front of him. And what we know is...
That's important. Now we're getting somewhere. They know or should have known that he was not the cause, that he didn't have a criminal mindset, that he didn't know or should have known that this happened or was going to happen. Now we're getting somewhere. I like the way he set this out. People are going to accuse him of cherry picking. And again, we're going to show the state police's response to this, so don't worry.
We never disputed ever that he passed those vehicles. They were in a row, 4 vehicles in a row. We know they were going 30 to 35 miles an hour. He passed them.
And to me, just I'll say this: that alone, I think you can make an argument that you could cause a crash quite a while ahead of you, depending on what they can see. Because if they see you traveling very fast, 75 yards in front of them in their lane, it's not like they're going to know, oh, I'm sure he's going to get out of my lane now. Oh, I'm sure he'll hit the brakes. It's like, no, I want to get out of this guy's way, right? Now, I don't know it depends on what their line of sight is. Could they see him? Could they not? So a lot of still details we need, but they're admitting that he was passing in the wrong lane. And he says, we've never disputed that.
no passing zone, but he got back in 92. We know they were going 30 to 35 miles an hour. He passed them. It was a no passing zone, but he got back in 92.3 yards. He was back in his lane of travel. He was 72 yards behind at the time of impact. We know that now. He was actually the second car to pull up behind, not even the first. At no point in time did he have to slam his brakes. He wasn't even close to the second car. He just eased in. He eased in. He went straight from there to the facility in Trevor for his football practice. But he had no idea he caused this accident because he didn't think he caused the accident. He didn't cause the accident.
When did you get knowledge?
And so that's the other thing. And that's the big issue with like the hit and run. How would you know if you're Kyren Lacy? And I'm saying you started this domino effect is what, if I'm law enforcement or I'm the prosecutor's office and I'm going to argue you started this domino effect, Kyren Lacy. How would he know at that time? How would he know that he was the one? Imagine thinking that. It's like you throw a ball in the air and you hear the next day that somebody died from a head injury. Would you be like, oh, I wonder if it was the ball I threw in the air and never saw again? Maybe I should go check it out. Some people, I guess, would. But it's like, how would you really know? And the reckless driving, potentially, passing, speeding, whatever. But the hit and run, that is a very difficult one, I think, for a prosecutor to prove based on what this lawyer's saying.
Jeff, when did you first get on the case itself? When were you notified?
Weeks after. Remember, from the time of this investigation to when a warrant was executed, they were weeks apart, right? And then I get involved after that. Mm-hmm. By the time I get involved, he's already charged with this. So that's a circumstance that I inherit.
Right.
But, you hear things, you keep your eyes open, you keep your ears open, and you listen, and something wasn't passing the litmus test here. So, when you look back on this and you see actual data, it's not mine, that shows these types of things, and you go as far as a witness saying he split between two vehicles and then there was the spontaneous combustion, it truly should open some eyes, right? That is not even close to what happened.
As you started your discussion with Kyren Lacy, and look, once again, we'll talk about Mr. Hall later in the program because we're not avoiding talking about a veteran, but I want to stay on point here just for a second. When you're talking to Kyren Lacy and he's saying, Matt, I wasn't involved in this. What was his mindset like at the time?
It's horrible. Look, man, you got a young kid that's getting assassinated on public media, social media.
And this is the saddest. I mean, the car accident took a life, brutally sad. This is equally as sad, right? When lives are lost because of things people do, whether intentional or accidentally, like this is so sad to hear. So get ready for probably the saddest part of the video. But what is his mindset? Because I've also heard a lot of people being like, oh, he knew he was guilty, conscious of guilt. That's why he did this. That's the only reason you would take your life. I think that is an explanation, and people do things like that. We've had that happen to us, unfortunately, as well. One time in my entire career that I can remember. But there are other reasons too. Like we've seen, take care of my case, we've seen other people because of cyberbullying and things on social media hurting themselves and doing things to themselves. There are other explanations that are possible as well.
He begged me to help him. I was already helping, but it was a consistent deal, obviously, meaning far after representation, begging me to help him. And you move as fast as you can with what you have, right? But there was a defining point for me.
And you also have to be honest as a lawyer, like, this doesn't look good. Like, prepare yourself. We always talk about preparing clients for the worst, hoping for the best. And when you're doing that, you probably feel a little guilty when something like this happens. Like, I had to tell him the truth. And I'm not saying that happened here. I'm not putting words in his mouth. I'm just saying, like, as a lawyer, you be there for your client, but it's hard to be your client's like rock as far as being their friend and pouring into their life and making sure they're okay every day and mentally trying to be with them and try and lift them up and give them good purpose and point them in the right directions. And so they need family and like a group around them. Lawyers can handle some of that, but we also have to be realistic. We have to fight for them. We have to be honest with them. We have to tell them how it's going. We have to tell them how we're preparing, what we're getting in, even if it's good evidence or bad evidence. We have to do that as well. Sometimes that can take a toll.
In this whole situation that I knew he wasn't joking. And he referenced things in football fields. And I know it's easy to look back and say, oh, I bet he never said that. He's deceased now. BS. I'm telling you now what he told me. He said I was a football field. A football field is how he compared things, right? So he's saying when he got back in his lane of traffic, I know I was a football or even a little over a football field over by the time I'm back in my lane. And when I told him that they had video surveillance of this whole thing, it was like he was relieved for a second. Because I think in his mind, he thought that, which most did, most people that I talked to think that he actually hit the vehicle or he barely got past him and then they collided. That was a narrative that I heard the most. Mm-hmm. So in his mind, at least he's looking at this going, okay, somebody can show I was actually watched this accident. I saw it. And he told me there was a car between them. Hell, after I read everything prior to meeting with him and the things that I heard, I'm questioning what's going on here. Mm-hmm. Did he just get through and take off like they suggested? You and I read reports earlier. We're looking at all news reports where they say he actually collided with a vehicle.
They did.
They actually said he fled a scene. They actually said he came back to the scene. Do you know how preposterous that is? None of that's true. And he sure as hell never split the difference and barely got through. And then there was some.
So then we have potential lawsuits against media reporting. Did they get it wrong? Were they reckless with how they're reporting? Did they know it was wrong? Did they get it from law enforcement? So there's a lot of nuance here with all of this. But it really falls apart if he's at all at fault for the accident. That's the difficult part, right? That's the difficult part to manage.
Big explosion. That's not what happened. Kyren Lacy passed 4 vehicles. There's no question in a row. Nobody ever disputed that. But it's now undisputed that he got back in 92.3 yards. Now, interestingly enough, the report indicates that at 120.4 yards, he was already entering back into the lane, right? The reason they reference that is they say in this report, the district attorney's office, their investigation yielded that at that time, Kyren and vehicle number 2, all right, 1.5 seconds before the accident or 120.4 yards apart.
So I said 120.4 yards, not feet.
All this is yards. This is not feet.
It's a big difference.
The only footage we have discussed, you and I today, is what's legally required when you pass a vehicle.
100 feet.
You have to be back in your lane of traffic 100 feet. He was over 300 feet. I'll be the first to admit that particular law does not say when you're in a no passing zone. Be clear. He passed 4 vehicles in a no passing zone. Never been disputed. Not once. Did I ever dispute that or anybody else? But the big narrative spun was, and this is very important, that he was actively passing at the time of this accident. That is extremely important. We know now that is 100% false. In the conclusion of the district attorney's report,
what page, John? I'm going to follow.
This is on page 12. Yeah. The impression that Kyren Lacy was actively passing vehicles when the crash occurred, which is incorrect. He did pass 4 vehicles, but was back in the southbound lane before the crash occurred. And now we know, according to this data.
I mean, it sounds like he could have had maybe some effect with the prosecutor to get this case dropped or to get certain charges dropped. And I give the prosecutor credit for even putting this in a report, right? It doesn't seem like overall corruption and like people trying to cover up or cover for each other. It doesn't feel like that. And, you know, from my perspective, if nothing else, if there is no civil lawsuits or anything like that, at least this lawyer's trying to get out a narrative that he believes to be true, that his client, in fact, did not cause this death. Well, we're going to hold because there's still more we're going to hear, but we're listening to this explanation.
That was 72.6 yards as it stated in this report.
When I think at one point while we were talking, you indicated to me that Kyren was very close to being vindicated on this matter. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in my opinion, I had a very good idea of enough started adding up to me to know that there were holes all over this thing, right? So it's the policy of the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office that all homicides go to a grand jury. We were nearing that grand jury, right? Where all of this was coming out. Everything I'm telling you now is going to be presented to a grand jury in a fair, neutral, and impartial manner. So in my opinion, this never survives a grand jury. Never, never, ever survives a grand jury.
It's a bold claim. And I don't know which charges he means on, but I think it is possible at least we can say it survives a grand jury because we know you can indict a ham sandwich. Unless it's different there, you know, in Louisiana, because they do have some different things, but it's like a normal grand jury. I've never had a case or even covered a case that had a grand jury in Louisiana, so I don't know. But To say it's impossible, again, you can make claims like these knowing this is not getting to court and this is not getting to a grand jury. So you can make claims like these because they're never really going to be tested. So we have to be careful when people make claims like this to not just run with them, but to understand they have positions to be made. I think this lawyer's doing a good job in his media tour here, trying to get justice out there and the word out there and what he believes to be true out there. But we're always going to have our thinking caps on. We're always going to try and look at these things logically. And we know how easy it is to indict things and how crazy it is when they lose in the grand jury. A couple come to mind, Deshaun Watson's cases, they lost the grand jury, meaning he did not get indicted, Kyren Reed, for the witness intimidation. So it does happen. I'm not saying 100% it was going to get indicted, but I think it's hard to say any case has zero shot at the grand jury.
48 hours from that, from this report getting to the grand jury, right? So it is the process. They moved it as quickly as they could. And by that, I just mean, it was done just like, which is the right thing to do, like every other case. It was done fair and square where, look, we have a homicide. We have to go through this process. The only promise that Ms. Russell made to myself and civil counsel for Mr. Hall was that she would complete the investigation and immediately set it for grand jury out of fairness to both.
So he said they handled it exactly like they could, as fast as they could, like any other case, which again, I'm not saying he's doing this to set up a civil case. I'm saying that's one of the veins I'm looking at it in. Could there be some kind of civil claim? Statements like that make you think no.
And she did that. She did exactly what she promised she would do. Insofar as an investigation, we had no idea what a result would be on her end. No clue.
Mm-hmm.
We just knew it was being done. They didn't sit on it for some amount of time. They worked it thoroughly, but in the time manner that they could, and they set up a grand jury just like they promised. So we couldn't have asked for more from a office who has always been and will always be just extremely fair, right? I mean, that's all you can ask for. There's no fault on their part. There's certainly no fault whatsoever on the part of Mr. Hall. That's a wonderful family. Believe me, it's not easy for me to get up here right now. There's a man who passed away other than Kyren Lacy, and his life was just as important as Kyren Lacy.
And that was one thing I regretted, and I would tell the family that.
Exactly. And that's brutal. And he's talking about Mr. Hall's civil attorney who is probably suing multiple I mean, I would be shocked if there wasn't a claim against Vehicle 2. Obviously, I would think there's a claim against Kyren Lacy as well. And, we'll see.
I didn't spend enough time talking about Mr. Hall. He's deceased, and just
that's
paying our respects to their family too, because they're grieving and naturally they're going through a lot of turmoil too. But of course, I guess what we're looking for on this show is, and I think everyone would want it. I don't care which side you're on. You just want the truth.
I just want the accurate truth, right? What one thing, and I hate to, in fact, I'm not going to harp on it again, but you're right. That's all we're after here is a better picture of the truth. That's it. Never, what do you get me up here to try and put a black eye on state police? Look, man, these guys got a tough job.
Mm-hmm.
Tough job. There's some excellent, wonderful individuals, more than I can.
And I'm glad he said this as well, right? Because I'm trying to take all the questions you guys have, synthesize them, analyze them, put them in here. It doesn't seem like he's going to file any lawsuits against anybody for this, right? I think there's a lot of reasons for that. And I think he's right. They have a tough job. And I think a lot of this boils down to, even after watching this, I think he understands it would have been a court battle, right? Even though he said no chance at, this winning in the grand jury, if they would have charged him, if they would have gotten indictment, if they would have gone forward on this and gone to trial, I think it would have been a battle. And I think it would have been a very interesting battle. And I think he's got a lot of great arguments, but I don't think it's a slam dunk either way. And I think there's more facts and details that need to be teased out.
Can ever imagine, actually. I enjoy working with them. That's not my point here, but I hold myself accountable. I hold everyone that I come across accountable. They get no pass from me either. That doesn't mean they're bad people, right? That's not what we're here to say. That's not what I'm saying. I've never said that. I never will. I'm simply here to compare and contrast. Now, the findings of the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office versus the findings of state police. We have a vast difference.
Let me go a little step further, because I want to go to Houston a little bit, because, there, and again, I mean, if you watch Facebook or you listen to social media, you're going to get 20 different reasons why Kyren Lacy took his life. And I'm going to go out on a limb, because I figure you probably know the truth on this matter. Is there anything that you would like to set straight about the Houston part of this story?
I don't know that the Houston part of this story didn't upset me more than the front end. Let me just say this. Kyren Lacy went to Houston that Friday with his mind made. He was suffering. There was a point in time that night at his apartment, the apartment that he, his little brother, and his cousin were in. His mind was made. He wanted the keys to that vehicle to, I don't know how to say this, to
Take his life.
yeah. So it's either you give me my keys and I do this on my own accord, or this is going to go down right here, right now. Obviously, the keys were given. A welfare call was made. Keyword, welfare check, right? There was no crime. There's none of that, man.
Mm-hmm.
No drugs, none of that BS. Kid's mind was made. You know the rest of the story.
So he told whomever he was with that that was the place and time. Wasn't there a shot fired or something?
That's how he got his keys. I think that's how you're showing him. And by the way, the shot was fired in the ground on purpose to let them know the seriousness of what was going on in his head.
So he
All right. And the rest of it, a lot of it is talking about that. We're going to jump now to after hearing this and after seeing a lot of this, there was a lot of comments on social media, a lot of people saying different things. And Ryan Clark goes on, and we don't have enough time really to see this. So I'm just mentioning him, but a lot of people did. I think Pat McAfee did, and a lot of people went on big sports networks and, said we need justice for Kyren Lacy, which I don't have a problem with. Like, we do need justice for Kyren Lacy, but we don't know all the details, right? I think it's important that we want to shine a light in darkness. We want to shine a light in corruption. We want to fight that. It's a tragic situation. We have to look at both sides. We have to see things come out. We're not going to be able to see everything come out in this case. That's a sad reality of this case, that we're never going to know the whole truth. We're never going to know how it would have ended up. We never know what's going to pass the scrutiny of the rules of evidence to become evidence at trial. We always know both sides want to put things in that don't end up coming into evidence. It's sad. It feels unfair, but it happens so often. And then this video comes out. I don't know the exact timeline, if it was because of this video or anything like that, but this video comes out. Then a lot of people are going on, like SVP, I think McAfee, I think Ryan Clark. I'm not positive. Don't hold me to that. And I'm not saying anything about any of those guys personally. I think if you make a mistake and you think you say something wrong and you come out apologizing for it and people crucify you for apologizing for it, they are the problem in the world, the people crucifying you for apologizing. If you say something wrong or you say something that wasn't fully fleshed out, I personally like SVP's the best, where he's like, I apologize, didn't do the whole story, didn't do the whole background or whatever it was that he said. It's like, commendable. Thank you. If you learn more and change your opinion, that's what society's all about. That's what life is all about. We should all be continually learning, growing, getting better. We should give grace to each other. He without sin should cast the first stone. All of us have made mistakes. All of us have jumped the gun on things. Now, if they have a continual behavior of that and they constantly are doing things that you think they're doing for a certain reason or whatever, and you feel a certain way about somebody, I get it. But even that person, I would want to come out and apologize and say, what I said was wrong. I've done more research. I've come out to more information. So now we're going to take a listen to this video that was put out by the Louisiana State Police in their version of the events of how they think things happen.
I'm Colonel Robert Hodges, Superintendent of Louisiana State Police. You're about to view a critical incident briefing video that is intended to give the community a better understanding of the incident that occurred. The video is inclusive of evidence related to the incident, which may include 911 calls, body-worn camera footage, and other relevant information. As this comprehensive investigation develops, our understanding of the incident may change as additional evidence is collected, analyzed, and reviewed.
That's fair too. Like, during an investigation, when we're on the civil side, we need to adapt by what we learn and the new evidence we get. Cops do that too. Prosecutors do that too. Defense attorneys do that too.
Department's ability to investigate these incidents relies on the impartial and transparent
By the
investigation.
way, if we're all honest, that's a good thing. We want that. We want people to be able to change their mind with more information, or else the cops jump to a conclusion, stick in. Now they got to dig in, because even if they find something else, oh, no, society won't let you change your mind. We don't want that. And criminal defense attorneys constantly are presenting things to law enforcement and prosecutors trying to get them to change their mind by giving them more information,
as well as considering the potential criminal responsibility of those involved.
On Tuesday, December 17, 2024, Louisiana State Police Troop C began investigating a fatal crash that occurred on LA 20 near Perez Lane and Chack Bay, located in Lafourche Parish. This investigative briefing has been prepared to provide clarification of the facts and an accurate depiction of the evidence in the moments leading up to the crash and the subsequent investigation. Due to differences in technology, the timestamps on the business surveillance footage may not align with the actual time data recorded by Louisiana State Police based on recorded radio communications.
So that's going to be something, any defense attorney is going to pick apart. If the timing or the dates don't exactly match up, That's a problem.
According to the video timestamp, at 12:03 p.m. and 52 seconds, a green Dodge Charger is seen traveling south in the opposing lane on LA 20 at a high rate of speed, passing 3 passenger vehicles and 1 loaded 18-wheeler in a designated no passing zone with a 40-mile-per-hour posted speed limit. As a green Dodge Charger returns to the southbound lane, aggressive braking and engine deceleration are immediately followed by a crash that can be heard on the surveillance footage.
All right, I'm going to slow it down again every time we see the video as much as I can remember to. So you see the Charger. He is. You can see the 18-wheeler back here. And you can see the other cars. You can see he's definitely going fast, but then he very easily gets back into the other lane. What are the other cars seeing? That's what's important. What are they seeing? What's their perception? Do they think they're going to get hit by this Dodge Charger even though he gets back in the lane or not? That to me is something that's potentially a jury question. And you can hear the crash in the video. So he gets back in the lane, then you hear the crash. So it's a couple seconds as he's getting back over. And if you want my opinion, right, and I think an argument can be made, the reason Kyren Lacy got back into his correct lane of travel is because he saw the gold truck. He saw cars coming towards him in the lane he was in, which is natural. That's when you get back over. But there's also areas where you can pass in that type of highway where there's a dotted yellow line, not in a no passing zone over a double yellow. So it's logical to me to believe the gold truck saw Kyren Lacy saw the gold truck. Kyren Lacy gets back into his lane. Gold truck swerves off. Vehicle 2 also tries to swerve off, causing the accident, creating the domino effect and being directly in that link of causation. I think that's plausible.
According to the video timestamp, at 12:03 p.m. and 54 seconds, a portion of the crash can be seen as it occurs. Moments before the crash, the gold pickup truck abruptly veers out of the northbound lane into a business, while the green Charger is approaching in the same lane. Immediately after the crash occurred, the green Charger was observed on surveillance video and by witnesses traveling through the crash scene and continues north on LA 20, failing to stop. At the same time, all other vehicles...
So that could just be like he's a jerk, or that's probably not a good word. I apologize for saying that. It could be he was just in a rush and wanted to get to practice and saw the accident, didn't think anything of it, and just left because he didn't think he had anything to do with it. So the fact that he went around it doesn't necessarily mean he was leaving the scene again, unless he thought he could have caused the accident, which I think, again, there's arguments on both sides of that where you can argue, oh, he definitely should have known, or I was 75 yards away. I didn't think I caused that accident. I got back over safely. Accident happened. I still needed to be on my way. I didn't want to wait for police to show up. I didn't want to give a statement. I didn't see what happened. So I'm going to turn on and go on my way. I can see multiple arguments there.
Remain at the scene to provide assistance. The briefing will now transition to the trooper's response and investigation. At 12 o'clock p.m., a 2-vehicle injury crash with road blockage was dispatched to Louisiana State Police Troop C via the 911 dispatch system. The responding trooper arrived on the scene at 12:07 p.m. and was immediately met by numerous witnesses who described a green Charger driving aggressively and causing the crash. The video has been edited for time purposes.
102, be advised, we got total road blockage on LA 20.
If you get a chance, can you advise code of injury?
Civil.
Let's take a turn and then head on.
Did you see a green Charger flying that way? A green Charger going that way?
There's a green Charger. There's a green Charger that caused all this.
I don't know if this is the driver of the gold truck, but very clearly he says, did you see a green Charger flying that way? The green Charger caused all of this. So are witnesses always the end all be all and the expert on who's at fault for an accident? Absolutely not. But it's not like the cops came out of nowhere and did this. It's not like anybody targeted Kyren Lacy. Like, witnesses to this accident clearly felt like the green Charger caused all of this and a man's life was lost in this accident, so it was taken very seriously. I do think that that is important to where, like, this is maybe more like than I thought originally from some of the things I was reading and seeing myself. I can be in the same boat as I'm trying to learn. I initially think this, and as I get more information, now I start to think that. I think it is totally reasonable, with this being one of the first things this officer hears, to this is a normal criminal case. If I represented the decedent, the guy who died in this case, I would absolutely want criminal charges for everybody I thought was at fault and did something recklessly or even negligently to the level to cause his death. Do your investigation, do your job, make sure that justice is served in the criminal justice system and the civil justice system.
You see the green Charger flying that way? A green Charger that going that way?
There's a green Charger.
There's a green Charger that caused all this. SRT8, he caused all that. He went to pass the cars way back there, sir.
The green Charger collided with these cars?
He went right into
He went around that truck, okay?
He went right between them. So he says he went right between them, which is obviously wrong. So maybe discredit this witness as an officer, but he also said he passed all those other cars way back there.
Passing up
right now, and she had no choice. She hits the road. She gets this.
How are the injuries? What
She
are they?
got a broken ankle.
complaining about back injuries and then stuff like that. I was on
So
the phone with
two back injuries, one broken ankle.
Yeah,
I'm not, I just told him not to move. You know what I'm saying? Me doing my part.
You said something about a green Charger. Who told you something about a green Charger?
I'm down 18 wheel right there, sir.
Okay, so you saw it.
I saw it.
What did you see happen?
He went to pass him. I say when he went to pass me the cars back there around around the curve. Right?
Okay.
All right. Hey, he come down, right? When he come down, I got Mr. He had his brother that was was taken to the emergency room, to the hospital or something like that, chemo or something like that.
Okay.
But I got his number also to verify this, because he was in a car that was in front of her. When that green Charger came, he went caused this whole big traffic, so everybody went to hitting brakes. But the Charger, I thought he was hitting this down the gold truck head on. So he jammed on brakes. She was coming down. They was going that way. When I saw,
which way was the Charger going? The Charger
was going this way.
Going this way. Okay.
She was coming this way.
Okay.
They was going this way also. Mr. jammed on brakes. She went to dodge Mr. And that's when she came on.
I was like,
hit him, on the left side. She come over and hit him.
Which 18 wheel were you driving?
The rebel. Right there.
So the Charger, I guess, passed you up.
Okay, so this is not the gold truck driver. This is the 18-wheeler driver, which he saw the green Charger pass him, obviously, was dead wrong when he said the green Charger went between the cars, obviously.
It was cars behind me because I'm taking my time.
And the Charger passing all these cars in this
everybody.
lane? And so almost hit this one head on?
No, he almost hit this. It was a gold truck. I got his number right here. That's why I took his number and his name.
Almost hit the gold truck head on?
Yeah, that's his number and phone number and name.
So the gold truck, what did the gold truck do?
The gold truck in his area right here.
The gold truck slams on
brakes, stop the Charger. The Charger swerves back.
And again, somebody else saying the gold truck slammed on the brakes. And obviously this guy did not see the whole accident like he's explaining, because he believes the green Charger went between the two cars. But if you're law enforcement, you're gathering information and putting yourself in their shoes at that time is important to do when we're looking at this.
Okay. Because somebody else, whoever was behind them.
Okay.
But then they slammed on, the Charger, he swerved in front of them. They slammed on brakes. And by this time, he slips through, right?
Okay.
As he slips through, she's coming. She like to round the back of the gold truck. That's what I'm saying.
So you almost hit the back of Miss.
Yeah,
was Miss truck hit?
No. He was missed.
Okay. So the truck, Mr. He slammed on it.
It was right up. The gold truck was right up there.
Right.
Yeah.
He slams on his brakes to avoid the Charger.
Yeah.
This car, what?
Because that car off, if I'm not mistaken.
So what is this car? It just swerves out the way to avoid.
She turned the wrong way. Yeah. Instead of going towards the post, she turned this way.
Okay, so she turned this way, and then this car was just coming.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
And then the Charger came around.
That's the number for the guy that was in the gold truck.
Okay.
Charger passed in between the
Yeah,
mailbox
the Charger stopped.
That's because he was using it, but
Okay.
And see what happened, the Charger had stopped.
Is it green Charger?
Yeah. But then when he seen what happened, he almost hit me because he came right here. He kept on.
He was the only one that jumped out of the trailer. Everybody else turned around went the other way. He jumped out of the trailer, eased through here, and went on down the road.
Okay. Okay. Look, I know it's hurting right now, but do you think you could just tell me briefly what happened? Or do you remember?
And I believe this is the driver of car number 2, who's injured and is going to say what she remembers from how the accident happened.
The truck was stopping on brakes. The other car was trying to pass the other car. I was trying to dodge by not hitting them by coming around.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like anybody's told her anything. It doesn't seem like anybody's affected her story at this point. She's like, I saw the truck move. The other car was trying to pass us. I don't know if she's talking about the Charger, but this is about as extemporaneous of a statement as you can get.
Do you remember how fast you were going?
The speed limit.
Okay. Thank you.
And we know she was actually going 49 and a 40, but she thought she was going the speed limit. Not uncommon for somebody to say that.
While on scene, the investigating trooper obtained written and recorded statements. The trooper also spoke with additional witnesses via phone and ultimately obtained written statements later in the investigation. After the crash, the passenger in the Kia Sorento died. As part of the continued investigation, the investigating trooper made contact with the driver of the gold truck at a later date to obtain an official written statement based on previous conversations. Troopers also received an additional witness statement describing the erratic driving behavior of the green Charger 10 minutes before the crash. Following the on-scene investigation, troopers identified the green Charger as a vehicle of interest and utilized 21 separate surveillance video cameras to capture the uninterrupted path of the green Charger from the crash scene to a Thibodeau business 11 miles away. Through the use of investigative tools, troopers were able to obtain the license plate number of the green Charger on December 19, 2024. On December 26, 2024, troopers determined that Kyren Lacy was the driver of the green Charger at the time of the crash. Just prior to the crash, Lacy was illegally in the opposing lane, passing southbound vehicles. The gold truck traveling north veered right to avoid a head-on collision with a green Charger. As the gold truck veered right, the driver of the Kia Cadenza saw the approaching green Charger. In reaction, the Kia Cadenza driver swerved left into the southbound lane and impacted a northbound Kia Sorento. Through the investigation...
So if the gold truck's swerving right to avoid Kyren Lacy, you can make an argument that he's partially at fault for all this. Now, you could win, you could lose that. But if the gold truck's swerving right and that caused vehicle number 2 to be like, I got to get out of the way, I go left, which again, the gold truck did the non-negligent thing, trying to get out of the way to the right. Vehicle 2 should have tried to do that too. I mean, again, I don't know exactly what this looks like, but to not try and hit somebody in oncoming traffic, they did the opposite, pull into oncoming traffic, and they're also probably at fault for this accident.
Troopers determined that the driver of the gold truck reacted appropriately to avoid a head-on collision with the green Charger, which was approaching at a high rate of speed. In consideration of the high speed of the green
You have
Charger...
to realize that even though the green Charger gets back in the right lane, when it's somebody 75 yards away approaching you at 80 miles an hour, it still seems like they're approaching you at a high rate of speed. You're not going to wait and see what they're going to do. I think that's plausible and an okay argument to make.
Compared to the surrounding...
If I was a lawyer on the defense side representing Kyren Lacy, I think I'd come up with a lot of good arguments. If I was the civil lawyer for the Hall saying Kyren Lacy caused this accident, I think I'd come up with a lot of arguments. That's how a lot of these cases end up at trial. It's different than like, he wasn't there, or he's 2 miles back, or this video was doctored. Very different, right?
Opposing vehicles, the reaction time of the involved drivers was greatly diminished. Since the incident occurred, the Louisiana State Police never reported that the green Charger impacted any of the involved vehicles.
This is the important part. What's just out there in the media? What are people reading that's wrong? And what did the Louisiana State Police say?
However, all evidence collected supports the conclusion that Lacy's reckless operation of the green Charger in oncoming traffic triggered the chain of events involving the other drivers, ultimately resulting in the fatal crash. Additionally, troopers determined that less than 10 minutes after the crash occurred, evidence supports that Lacy's first outgoing phone call was to a Baton Rouge area personal injury and defense attorney.
Okay, so now I never like to use calling an attorney against you at all. But they're trying to use it here to say he did know he caused this crash. And I think there'd be some fights about whether or not that would ever be admissible in court. Showing consciousness of guilt by calling a lawyer, I would fight that tooth and nail. But we're not talking about this in court, right? This has been brought to the media to discuss. What did he know? What was he doing? Why was he doing it? And they're trying to say, look, members of the public, he knew he caused this crash. That's why I called the lawyer right away. I'll let you guys lead to your own conclusions there. To me, that's not something I would ever hope would ever be considered in court.
After consultation with the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office on January 2nd, 2025, an arrest warrant was signed on January 8th, 2025 through the 17th Judicial Court for Kyren Lacy. In coordination with his attorney, Lacy was arrested on January 12th, 2025 at the Lafourche Parish Correctional Center. The driver of the Kia Cadenza was initially issued a citation for following too close, which was later amended to driving left of center. This incident resulted in numerous injuries and loss of life. All involved victims deserve a thorough and complete investigation based on all available factual evidence. Additional investigative reports and videos can be utilized through the trending topics link on the GovQA platform.
All right. So after that presentation is when, a lot of people came out and were saying, like, obviously there's multiple sides to this, and that's okay. And that's how most criminal cases, personal injury cases, that's very common. Very, very common. So now we're going to take a look at Matt Ori, Kyren Lacy's lawyer, responding to that state police video and presentation. Let's hear what he has to say.
Against Kyren Lacy.
Travis, let's be real. Think about this. You've been in that situation every day, so have I. Somebody passes you, right? I've never disputed he passed 4 vehicles. We're very clear about that. Those engines are loud. People get annoyed with those people. They pass them. There's a crash up ahead. Naturally, what's people's first thought? Surely that guy caused that crash, right? But see, the problem is the same guy they showed you, that's the same one who actually said he slipped between them and they collided. Well, we have video that clearly shows that wasn't even close to what happened. But we're going to...
All right. So he is basically attacking the credibility of the driver of the 18-wheeler, which you would expect. And it's a great argument. That the same guy that said the green Charger was the one that caused the crash said he slipped right between them, which if somebody slipped right between them right before he crashed, a lot more likely to have caused the crash, right? And he's saying it's logical for that guy to be pissed off, be like, this guy's driving all crazy. He must have caused this crash. Not necessarily always true. Again, arguments I think might be good in court, but don't completely clear names in the court of public opinion, which is a very hard thing to do. It's a very difficult thing. We've seen it happen in some cases, and it is an uphill battle and very difficult.
Run with that witness's statement. We're going to run with this video that we now know provided the yardage, that we now know that video was not synchronized correctly. See, when I released my video, that's actually the video. I didn't release one with any issues with technicality or sound that would make it appear that Kyren Lacy was closer than he was to the accident. That's exactly what the district attorney's investigation yielded.
It comes back to this, and I know that this has been a key talking point for you and for Kyren Lacy's family. You're not denying the fact that he was going around cars. You just feel like state police should not have charged him with negligent homicide. Is that correct?
That's correct. I've said it from day one. The proper platform here is a civil arena, not a criminal arena. I've never once denied he passed anyone. I'm simply saying he...
So he thinks that he should just be sued civilly and maybe they get his insurance money. Because again, a lot of times criminal defense lawyers will be like, yeah, let the insurance company pay. You had somebody who lost their life, tragic loss. Go ahead and sue them civilly, but no criminal behavior here. And what do you guys think? Do you think this is some kind of reckless homicide? Do you think it's just an accident and that Kyren Lacy may be at fault for the accident, but not criminally liable? And these layers are very interesting to me as legal discussions and where we want to stand as far as somebody accidentally doing something and going to jail for it. Where is the line? This is definitely not as bad as like a DUI homicide. Is it as bad as somebody who was texting and driving and rear-end somebody and they end up dying? Where should the law be in negligent homicides? And that's a overarching discussion I love having with all of you guys and reading your comments on it.
He was overbilled, in my humble opinion. It's not so humble anymore, right?
Overbilled is the same thing as overcharged, meaning he's charged with hit and run and reckless homicide and all these things that he just should not have been charged with, should have just been civil, not criminal. I don't know that I agree with that, but I want to hear what you guys think.
I firmly believe he was overbilled. When I get the district attorney's investigation with this data and this material, it only gives veracity to what I'm thinking, right?
And let me ask you this, because some people, when they watch this is how the legal process and the criminal justice process plays out. Police do the initial investigation. They give it to the DA's office. The DA's office then has the choice to do its own investigation, which is what happens here. And it does appear to contradict what state police found. That's not that uncommon in the criminal justice system, I believe, where you have a DA's office that just doesn't rubber stamp something. It
depends on what your definition of uncommon is. I would say it is uncommon for a state attorney's office and a police investigation to be completely contradictory. I would say that is uncommon, personally.
Their own digging and found something that was contradictory.
I can't speak for, I work in a lot of jurisdictions. All I know is in this particular case, they didn't just accept the filing of charges of state police. They did launch their own investigation for the 80th time. This is it. It's not Matt Ori's expert. I'm simply diving into all the data I received. I take their report. I have state police's report, right? And I go from there. You don't see this very often. You don't see that it's in direct contradiction, or if not direct, it is very inconsistent between the two reports. Let's just keep it at that.
Right.
Anyone who's saying otherwise, that's not true.
Could state police have made this video public sooner? I mean, I know that you dropped it when you got your hands on it because you had to wait for a little while to get it, but could state police have put video or their case out there more transparently in a sooner time frame?
I'm sure they could. I'm not answering questions on behalf of state police. I'm not blaming state police for when they decided, if never, to launch, to air this video. And I didn't launch mine immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I launched mine after doing my own investigation, right? So I have to receive this material. Then I got to go through all this. It takes a long time, and then, yes, we put it out. I wasn't letting this go down like this. We're going to get into other inconsistencies that I'm not happy with.
So what are some of those inconsistencies? I know you have the police report that can follow. The DA's report that can follow along with. What?
By the way, there are aspects of this that go to the Frazier Bohm case that we are going to see play out in court, and what kind of arguments are made, how you apportion fault, when does it become criminal, and if it is criminal, what level of criminal charges should you have, right? Now, Frazier Bohm's case is worse. He actually did collide with them. They have a lot more data on his case. I kind of believe everybody knows there's going to be some kind of criminal aspect to that case, but just what level? Talking about overbill or overcharged, that's a good case for us to learn a lot about that. This would have been a really interesting case as well. Should it be criminal at all for somebody who's changing lanes, got back over safely, and then an accident ensued 100 yards up from them? I think it's a really interesting legal question. Would have been a really good legal battle. It had just such a tragic ending that's what really, I think, has gripped everyone's attention here.
Listen, I've been accused of cherry picking, right? Cherry picking information. You know what's cherry picking? When you have a witness, the key witness in a case, that you guys, the whole world, heard the audio, right? Where he's been being told what they need him to say. He stops them. He then says, hold on, this is the vehicle behind me. She caused that accident, right? That's his words, not mine. Do you see that anywhere in this affidavit for arrest?
I looked through it. No,
that to me is cherry picking. When you choose to not put information from a critical, maybe the most key witness, see one that didn't get past 5 vehicles, that already has a preconceived notion about what maybe happened, that saw everything, and that guy says it's someone else's fault. That's not in here. All it says he had to take evasive action by emergency braking. Didn't he just specifically make it clear I wasn't even going fast? I didn't even skid mark. What emergency braking? And then we have cherry picking, right? Before you get into the black box, we have a warrant. The black box destroys the previous witness's testimony.
Because what you talked about, the black box in the vehicle doesn't show braking, as
none
alluded to in the.
You guys saw that. That is indicated. You can read it in this report, man.
Right. The DA's report.
That's correct. Right. So if you have a story that the vehicle in front of you came to a stop and then it slowed down and then you saw this car coming, see, that's cherry picking if you don't put in, but by the way, her black box does show she didn't brake for the last 4 seconds, right? Like you maintained almost the exact same speed until 0.5 seconds before the crash, which is interesting because when you say in a warrant that they had to take evasive action, talking about, let's see, vehicle 2 also took evasive action to avoid a head-on crash with a rapidly approaching vehicle. Well, that's crazy because in this exact report, this states, if you want to turn to page 9,
I'm on it. Yep.
that this 1 second time was selected due to it being the last recorded time where vehicle 2, obviously that's our name here, where vehicle 2 was not taking evasive action. 1 second pre-crash, we will then locate Kyren Lacy back to the point that he will be in the process of changing lanes back into southbound lane. That distance between Kyren and Brianna at that point is 120.4 yards away.
So let me ask you this, just because there's people that are watching this and people interpret things differently and people interpret video clips differently, as we've all seen over the last couple of days. State police in the video they dropped today allude to the fact that Kyren Lacy came out of his lane, went into another lane, and that caused the other vehicle to swerve into this lane. That is a critical part of their investigation.
Sure.
That they feel like that's why they charged him, because he came out. No, you're going to show me. I know, because it's right there. Yeah.
But that's my point, Travis. That's my exact point. Like, where's the narrative? Is he now still in the lane of travel? Like, what, are we playing chicken?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? Because right here it states once again, they're telling you to avoid a head-on crash with a rapidly approaching vehicle.
And to me, this is a lawyer making a good argument. But when we're talking about arguments lawyers can make, just because he got back in the other lane of travel does not mean he didn't cause the crash, right? And I do think that the deposition of the driver of the gold truck and of vehicle number 2 would basically be this entire case. What did they see? What caused them to react the way they reacted? And that's, I think, what would carry the day in front of a jury.
We know now that's not true. You saw this vehicle. He arrived seconds after.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to come up with use the statements given by someone, you don't know the suggestive manner those statements were given. Everybody wants to crucify vehicle number 2. Why? This is an accident that happened. I understand but hold on. Everyone's distracted at some point driving. Then they immediately crucify her. But they're telling you here in her statement, the district attorney's recap of it all.
Right.
Everyone is distracted. Does he mean distracted by Kyren Lacy and then everybody's fine again? That could be a tough sell.
Travis, do you think it's possible? I mean, look at this. He steps on his brakes first, so slows down. But then he does it again, and this time really hard. But that's when you can see on the side of the course trying to get back over. So they're putting all these parts of the statement. But the data shows that is not what happened. So they're going to come after me. They're coming after me, right? How dare I? You're right. How dare I challenge the very witnesses that are giving these statements? How dare I show you the actual black box?
Anybody who says how dare he, it's like, dude, you got to know what he's doing. He's fighting for, I think he's trying to fight for like Kyren Lacy's family and the people all broken up about this and how horrible they feel about it, to try and show like, don't crucify this kid. Don't say he died a horrible criminal who caused the death intentionally or by some kind of action, and mixing all this stuff up. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. That's really what I think he's trying to do. More than anything else.
The actual black box. You can't dispute that. You can pull it up here. It's right here. Does that not show you, Travers, at 5 seconds to then, you don't start activating your ABS until 0.5 seconds before? So my question is, if you saw all this, if you saw the vehicle in front, stop. If you saw them slow down, if you saw a vehicle approaching, you just forgot to tap your brakes? But I'm the bad guy now, right? Because state police drops a video that, of course I knew it existed. Why would I want something airing that is not accurate? They told you right here. They told you. The video is not synchronized correctly.
Right.
I love the video. The video is the only thing that can allow us to extract data to show when he was back in. To be clear, he was back in his lane, 92 yards. According to the district attorney, at the time of impact, he was 72 yards behind the vehicle. I'm not backing down. I'm not here to hurt anybody. But dang, if you're going to come after me for going through this process, well then, that's where we are.
The Attorney General said yesterday that she's going to take a look at this. Do you welcome that? Do you welcome the Attorney General or any outside law enforcement agency to come in and say, look, let's take a look at everything the DA found, everything state police found?
If he gets, I'll just tell you, if he gets some other governing body, law enforcement, attorney general, whatever, to look at this and be like, yeah, Kyren Lacy should never have been charged. No criminal charges should have come. Not a criminal. That is a home run, A+. Great job by him. Keep it in the civil courts. There'll be a settlement, in the wrongful death lawsuit. All of that, great. All of that, great and good. If he is able to do that, A+ work for him. Probably not getting paid by anybody. I don't know. I guess somebody could be paying him in the background, but just literally fighting for justice and get what he believes the truth to be out there, and fighting for his client who can no longer fight for himself, who made a tragic decision in a horrible set of circumstances. So kudos to him for continuing to fight.
Everything Matt Ori is saying, do you welcome
I don't think he's lying or misleading. I think he's making arguments like lawyers make arguments. You guys tell me, am I jaded here? Am I wrong? Do you think he's lying or misleading? I really don't. I feel like he's taking facts and making arguments. It's not a situation like Karen Reed where the lawyers are saying there was no impact. He's saying, I can argue Kyren Lacy didn't have anything to do with this action because he was back in the lane of trout.
Coming in and putting a fresh set of eyeballs on this, try to get to the bottom of it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. As long as I believe, which I have no reason not to, I have no reason to believe the AG will not launch their own independent investigation that's unbiased, that's fair. That's all I can ask for. Invite all the eyes. I even heard today that they talked about didn't he say he called his attorney or an attorney?
That was another thing. After leaving the accident scene, he made a phone call to an attorney. If you want to address that.
That attorney is his little brother's dad. That attorney is who he talks to all the time. That attorney is one that
Which is why you could take stuff and twist it, make it seem a certain way, but not. What was he calling that attorney for? Why? And that's why that type of evidence should not be used in court. Now, he could be wrong too. I'm not saying he's absolutely right, but there's always more to the story and more to explain. That's the point of trials and discovery and the rules of evidence and what we can and can't present and enter. That's the scrutiny that's appropriate. That's good about our justice system. I know I'm going to have comments that say our justice system sucks. I disagree with you always. It's not perfect, but it's the best in the world in my opinion, and I'll stand by that.
Games with, they talk 2 to 3 times a week. And most importantly, that attorney was with his dad that day in New Orleans. That's a fact. I can absolutely prove that. We know why they were there in New Orleans, for work, right? Mm-hmm. You don't know the content. I'll let his dad tell you what the content was. There was a message surfacing on social media the other day that I can't deny, that he sent to his trainer, that he told him there was a wreck in front of him, some head on, and they use the word FH, curse word, but that's out there. That's his state of mind at the time. But we're alluding, like, why are we cherry picking that he called his attorney? He called his attorney, who's his little brother's dad, who he talks to all the time. Why just say that, right? Why?
I mean, do you think that they're putting, is that getting back to your cherry picking and putting that his first call was to an attorney? It does make it seem like, it does paint the picture that something wrong he's trying.
There's a couple ways. Like, you feel defensive, you feel like this lawyer's coming at you as law enforcement, like, well, here's all the evidence we have and responding. So I get that. but that's why it's just better to play above board. The video is fine without mentioning the attorney call, but I do think a lot of listeners, a lot of viewers may be like, oh, that attorney call proves he knew he did it. He knew he hit and run, or didn't actually hit, but ran after causing an accident. So it's probably why they didn't. And it probably did have the desired effect they wanted.
See if he can reach out to a lawyer.
But just be, this is what it is.
There's
Don't act like
context.
this is a guy I didn't talk to all the time.
Right.
There's messages from that whole month before between those two, long before an accident.
And to get back to this, just to circle back to this, when you see, you shared, the DA had, it was the piece of body camera video when they went to go get the witness statement, which
Right.
obviously you have pointed out what the state trooper was talking about with that gentleman. When it comes back to those statements that were made at the scene, one was made by a truck driver. There was a woman who looked to be injured on the ground. They blurred out her face in the video. What is your reaction to that? I mean, is it just, why do you think those people are saying what they're saying at the scene?
Well, I can tell you, the individual vehicle number 2 at the scene, of course. You think she didn't hear what the other drivers that were outside their vehicles right by this were saying prior to anybody getting there? You think that's not logical? You think it's not an issue there? If you're so clear on what happened, why did you have to tell the guy what you needed him to say? Why? Why the day before was your body camera off for 4.5 minutes before activating the audio portion of that when you got his first statement, the statement that you wanted, right? But then the time of truth when he's on camera activated and I can see him and hear his audio, and you give me a statement, which by the way, cherry picking, never made it. Did you see anywhere in this affidavit where it states the guy actually stopped and said it was someone else's fault? Did you ever see that?
I did not.
No, you didn't, because it's not in there. Wow, you think a judge doesn't take a second look when they say, hold on, actually the guy stopped him after that. And by the way, to tell him the story, and then the body camera goes off and you go in and we come back with a statement that is not what he said. It's refused.
Let me ask you this, because it's become a national story, and it's one that needs to be discussed and probably needs to be examined, as the AG said she would do it. In your opinion, and you're his lawyer, in your opinion, you got the police investigation here from state police. The DA was looking to take this to a grand jury. Based on what you have, do you think Kyren Lacy would have been charged by the Lafourche Parish grand jury with negligent homicide? I guess no. You think they would have just not charged him?
Do you think they would have?
No true. Well, it says they don't. It says they don't support it.
You got to look at this report. Do you think they would have?
I mean, I can read it. It says the actions do not support the evidence submitted in the correct.
So why would they take it to a grand jury then?
Does not support that Kyren Lacy should have known his actions were the cause.
Don't ask me.
I mean, I know that we never got.
That's on the hit and run, though. If he knew his actions were the cause versus do we feel like we can prove his actions were the cause? Two different questions.
To that day, unfortunately, because there was a tragic situation in Texas involving Kyren Lacy. But do you think he would have? You don't think he would have been charged?
No, I've been very clear about that.
So then the allegations, in essence,
I just think they were overbilled.
Yeah.
I see it all the time. This is the nature of the beast that I live in, man. People get overbilled all the time for whatever reason. Reports come out, then you have to backtrack, you extract evidence. That's kind of the point of what we do, right? Let's make the pieces of the puzzle fit.
Exactly. And people don't understand that that's what criminal defense lawyers do so often.
Look, I'm not saying, I know that, like I stated before, there's consequences to me standing up against state police. I've said it a million times. I have no issue with state police. A lot of these guys, I mean, they're great people. They're not all. Some people just have investigations that for whatever reason they're not done correctly, or maybe they saw things in a box and didn't want to get out. But I'm reiterating the video you showed. You saw the key pieces of it. What did you gain from that? You gained the vehicle that I already told you that's actually the guy who said they went through. The girl on the ground that said they saw a Charger. How did you know that she even saw a Charger? Do you believe it's possible now that they saw a Charger? You saw a Charger, but you never touched your brakes? You saw the back of a pickup truck, in my opinion. That's what you saw. You never saw anything else. And you didn't, because this data in that report that you read says that. Don't forget, this was a girl who was cited for tailgating in the ambulance. That ticket was later retracted.
Let me ask you.
And by the way, what does the second to last line of this say on the conclusion? I believe it says what? It says about vehicle 2, following so close, which caused her, following too close, which caused her to take evasive action to avoid hitting the back of Dennis.
The person's truck.
Yeah.
So look, since the story broke, you and I have texted back and forth several times, and you have told me this is all about Kyren. This is all about what you feel is right for Kyren. What's the outcome that needs to happen here? We just want, give us a thorough, independent investigation. That's what his parents want. You can't hide from the fact of what you heard on body cam and somehow spun back to me as the cherry picking lawyer, right? You don't come at me. We're in no position. There's my mindset, their mindset. There's no stopping. We're in it. I mean, there's overwhelming evidence in the district.
They want to fight to clear his name publicly. That's the end goal result. Not necessarily lawsuits or anything like that, but the fight in the court of public opinion, which is a dangerous game, to try and prove that he just clear his name and get justice for him.
His own investigation that raises a lot of questions, right? So the outcome, I don't know. The outcome is justice. So let's keep investigating. I welcome an outside agency. I want to know more. You don't know what we're going to find. We don't know what we'll find out about that particular trooper. I don't know what I'll find out about what he was Was he directed to do anything? We don't know. I have no idea. These are all things we're going to find out.
So then if we find out more, that could change the stance with potential civil lawsuits and potential wrongdoing, intentional or negligently.
You just took your shot, and your shot was what we just talked about, right? Talk about cherry picking. That's cherry picking, my friend. So that is what it is. We could do this all day long. I'm not trying to sue the media. I had no intention of getting back on. There have been hundreds and hundreds of requests. I told you there was one podcast that I would do, and that was for him, for Kyren, because I knew he's close to this fella. Other than that, nothing. And I'll maintain that. But if you come out with another statement, I'm not.
I emailed him, no email back. Didn't respond, didn't give me anything. So that's true, at least from my experience with them, because I love to have lawyers on, as you guys know, to talk through these things, to talk through the issues, to get through what exactly is the goal here. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to approve? Do you agree or disagree with some of the other ways you can look at this case?
Sit back. Don't say I'm cherry picking. I suggest that they are, right? You got a statement, so it's great. They said the green Charger. That you didn't have to stop there. So you didn't think to look and say a black box says complete.
And by the way, I didn't see this until after I emailed him. I will not reach out anymore. He doesn't want to do that. That's great. That's his prerogative. I think everybody should be thoughtful about making those decisions and doing whatever you do. And if he goes on other podcasts, kudos to him too. Whatever you decide to do that you think is best for your case, your client, their family, do it. So my advice would be to every lawyer.
Complete opposite of what this statement is.
Right.
Just be practical. Have common sense here. So the black box says that you never touched your brakes until 0.5 seconds before the crash. Yet you believe the guy in front of you slowed down, then stopped, and then pulled off, and then you saw a car coming. Do you believe, after hearing that, seeing that black box, do you believe that that's accurate? No, don't avoid it. It's a question. Do you believe that?
I mean, look, there's a lot of questions, obviously. Yes. It does seem like the reports there are inaccuracies in not inaccuracies, contradictions in.
Did you see an inaccuracy in a body cam video from what someone said to the statement that came out with that you saw nationally? Was that a contradiction?
Look, I mean, everything you're talking about, obviously, state police, yourself, the DA's office, all of this probably needs to be looked at further. So
it does. And again, if they want to make me the enemy of state police, that's absurd.
I don't know if they're making you the enemy. I think they just wanted. I think they were responding. I think they were responding to everything that came to light. That's why I asked the question. Should they have?
I know, Travis, but this is what you don't get, man. When you're in my position, you understand what's going to happen here. But there's a point where justice has to override. There's nothing enjoyable about saying that someone I believe messed up in a report. Right. I believe there are various inconsistencies. So does the district attorney, by the way. Right. There's nothing easy about that. There's nothing easy about bringing up feelings for people who have lost people. Right. It's not enjoyable. You think it's fun being on the internet everywhere you look for 2 minutes? I don't know how these guys do it. But I'm not stopping. I'm not. Whatever that is, whatever the consequence, because inevitably there will be people in there that are going to say, oh, how dare me? You're right. How dare me question the integrity of this investigation? You're right. But exactly what you said is what happened. You have a video that you saw that was used, and you have that one, and you have that lady saying a green Charger, and off we go, right? It didn't take much to start breaking this down to understand, whoa, there's some serious inaccuracies here, serious problems. So yes, thank you. You released a video. Awesome. That has absolutely nothing to how my train of thought. If anything, it blows my mind that that's exactly how we're here. That's exactly why we got here.
Yeah.
But now you know that video, according to at least to the district attorney's report, it's not sent correctly. You know that's the same witness, one of them, who said that the actual crime passed between them at some point. Now,
all right, then he kind of repeats some of his arguments at the very end of the video. How I look at this overall as a whole is, as a civil attorney, if I represented one of the injured parties, I would be pretty confident in proving Kyren Lacy had at least some fault. I'd be very confident as well proving that the driver of vehicle 2 has at least some fault. As a prosecutor, I don't think I could ever go forward and try to prove hit and run. I think that'd be way too difficult to prove beyond a reasonable doubt what his mindset was, and I would never use a call to an attorney like that. There were 2 other charges, though. The other one was the misdemeanor reckless operation of a motor vehicle. I'd be pretty confident in proving that as a prosecutor. And I also think Kyren Lacy's lawyer, if all this was worked out and we end up saying, okay, we're just going to go off the misdemeanor reckless operation, he may be okay with that. The most difficult one is kind of the one in the middle, which is the negligent homicide. Where is that line? I would have to do more digging. I would love a more independent additional investigation before making that call. I would not feel confident after looking at these inconsistencies and inaccuracies and the body cam footage. I would probably say, no, I don't feel confident. I don't think I can go forward on that as a prosecutor, but I'd be open to a better investigation, more thorough investigation to kind of see how that would go. And as a criminal defense attorney, I think you got a lot of good arguments, which he's put forth here to try and prove. Will it ever be enough to truly clear Kyren Lacy's name in the court of public opinion? I don't know. You guys can tell me where you think you are there and what else you would need. I welcome your disagreements, agreements, what you think really it would take to get there. I appreciate you guys joining me so much. This is a longer podcast. Usually we don't make them quite this long, but thanks for hanging around. I'm sure you've already hit the like button by now, but if you haven't, hit it. Make sure you're subscribed. Till next time, we are out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast featuring new episodes every week. And if you have a case that you want to personally talk to us about in your life, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, truck accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.